Hello, welcome to this little lecture on strategies for confronting the culture of silence on gender-based violence and rape. I speak with the background of Nigeria where we work. My name is Ozioma Izuora, Executive Director, Mediators and Advocates of Peace, LAMPEG for short. We're an NGO that works in peace building and we train mediators on developing peaceful strategies for peaceful coexistence in the society. On the issue of gender-based violence in Nigeria, the one thing that links the many cultures and communities in Nigeria is patriarchy. And there are over 200 million in population in Nigeria. This patriarchy was our inheritance. It wasn't bad by itself because society did not expect much of women. Now, things have developed to a point where women are more liberated, know their rights, and actually do more than they did way back when patriarchy worked. Unfortunately, society still expects women to be where they were back in the day. This brings a lot of conflict. It's how to move on into a modern society where patriarchy cannot rule because there are rules for human rights and there is a constitution that guides what human beings do, and constitutions see human beings, whether they're male or female, as equal. Equality in the family, we always say, does not need to bring strife if we understand and learn how to manage, where husbands understand that their wives are partners, not competitors, but not slaves and not maids. In those days, it was okay to expect a man to chastise his wife. Now it is not okay. You do not even inflict a certain level of chastisement on your children or even people who work with you. Talk less about the person who you married, who you're supposed to love, who you're supposed to dialogue with, converse with, plan with. And this is a problem in society as a whole. Our society always put more store on maleness. The man, the young boy, is superior to the girl. Some people would kill themselves if they don't have boys as children. And it goes on. It's a vicious circle that leaves the balance, that leaves the family shaky. And many times, if not properly managed, we have incidents of gender-based violence. However, there are occasions where in reacting or in trying to stay afloat, the violence might actually come from the other way around. Yes, there are incidents where it is the women who also inflict violence on the other. How should we do this? One thing about Nigeria is this importance about silence. Do not talk about it because you bring the family name into disrepute. You will drag them down the name of the family. Tradition forbids that a woman should bring out to the public what is happening to her in the home, so she dies in silence, or the man dies in silence because it is not right, it is infra dig to appear weak, to appear to be suffering at the hands of his wife. How do we get around this? In Lampere, we recognize the plight of people who suffer any form of violence. We recognize this and we try to put them in a place where we drum it into their psyche that peace is not that of the graveyard. That people are quiet does not mean everything around them works. And if you do not speak up about what is causing your problem, there is no peace and it will burst out at some point or the other. You cannot build peace by condoning violence, especially not gender-based violence, not rape, nor any sex crime whatsoever. Those are the areas I'll be centering my conversation on today. What strategies, therefore, can we employ to neutralize these traditional views that do not conduce to peace? I'll enumerate some as follows. First of all, we must defy the popular tradition, the popular thinking that victims should not speak out about abuse. If you do not step forward, you cannot deal with the problem and you'll be living in a recurrent state of abuse. That does not help anybody. Economically, it disturbs the processes in the society. You can't work optimally if you're suffering any sort of discomfort you cannot speak about. We encourage people to come forward. That courage to step forward gives other people the courage to also air their own situations and find solutions. It has a ripple effect that is good for everybody in the society. So first of all, do not hide that which would kill you. If you do not expose a wound to the elements and have it cleaned out, it will not heal. That's where we start from. Then again, do not shield rape and rapists or people who are violent. Shielding them will enable them. Then you become an enabler. It enables them to continue in the infamy. Recently, a girl, 13-year-old in Benue State, died from illness that resulted from about 5 years of repeated rape by both stepfather and his son. The woman in the middle of this drama was more concerned about concealing this to maintain their status at nights of the church. It came out too that she had been a victim of rape at the hands of the man she married when she was only 12 years old. Tell me, has that not become a tradition in this family? After a while, rape will not mean much to them, but rape is still a crime. Nothing can cure that. If you cover rape, if you cover violent crimes, they will continue. That does not bode well for the society. 3, a person who is raped is a victim and deserves justice. It is not a good idea to make a rapist marry the victim. It is not a punishment for him, but it is a life sentence to her. The rapist needs to be prosecuted and punished according to law and sent to jail to pay for the crime, because that's what he is. He's a criminal. We must encourage the reform of our justice delivery system to include victim-centered or restorative justice by providing for trauma treatment for victims. The 2015 Administration of Criminal Justice Act contains provisions on restorative justice, but those provisions have not been activated because the agencies that should support restorative justice have not been set up by government. We must continue to remind the government of its obligation to follow through on the promises of that law of 2015. Set up these agencies, train personnel to handle sensitive incidents like the trauma suffered by victims of rape and such crimes. Merely sending rapists to jail, you see, does not heal the victim. The trauma will continue. Left untreated, the victim will continue to suffer and second-guess themselves. You know, have I caused this? Was it the way I dressed? Was it the way I looked? Was it where I was at? There is no excuse to rape, and we should not let society continue to indulge in all these excuses. If you hadn't dressed like this, if a baby that is in nappies can be raped, what is her fault? Its fault. If a woman who is all covered in hijab can be raped, if an old woman over 85-year-old can be raped, what is their own crime? Untreated trauma may affect relationships of victims way into maybe marriages and all of that, and you would not know the genesis of it. So it is important indeed to deal with the trauma suffered by victims of violent crimes. With Alampe, we support the setting up of sex offenders registers at police stations. This is the practice in other jurisdictions. Nigeria should follow suit. We hereby applaud Lagos State government, and I think Ekiti government state, and other people who are already putting this in place. We need to have warnings on predators and sex crimes so that all, on repeated occurrences, they will suffer more. They will go to jail. People will be aware that these are the people to look out for. We cannot condone the situation where rapists get life sentences. It does not convey the message that the society really frowns at all this. It does not help to curb future occurrences. We must show our affront at the fact of gender-based violence. That's one way you can ensure peace in the society. Beyond the family, the society needs to take a hard stance against violent crimes. The family, being a subset of the society, is a reflection of what will go on. If we make a continuous effort from the home to the society, then we'll have fewer cases, and that's what's important. Recently, in an IDP camp, a 10-year-old child delivered of a child having a child, and the rapist in that occasion is a 17-year-old boy. And his excuse, that when he slept with the girl, she was not a virgin. How preposterous. And this is the mindset of the society. Oh, if somebody is a prostitute, he deserves to be raped. If somebody finds themselves in a certain situation, they deserve to be raped. Nobody deserves to be raped. Nobody, no justification whatsoever. We preach, our advocacy is not to condone any form of violent behavior, not gender-based violence, not rape. We cannot say that enough. We encourage victims also to help themselves, seek out professionals to speak to in confidence, whether they're peace mediators, psychologists, experienced leaders of faith, or trusted family members. Organized bodies at all levels should be mindful about curbing sex crimes and gender-based violence, and have, as part of their agenda, interventions taking cognizance of the rights of the victims of crime. If there is an existing relationship between the abuser and the victim, the professional can talk the couple through their issues and assist them in healing the relationships. Many times the causes of violence can be traced, and when they're traced, sometimes it's easy to deal with it. However, and I stress this, if there is if the fear of physical violence persists, it is wise to remove the victim from the environment as soon as possible. Again, the triggers of violence. That is what mediators do. They trace triggers of violence and help the victims, the people involved, to identify them and to deal with the triggers. If you remove the triggers, we'll have better society and less friction. Yeah, I've already alluded to the fact that traditionally wives are blamed for answering back. If you quarrel with your husband, the woman and the village people called in to mediate or to sort it out, automatically, you as a wife, you're stopped from speaking out, from complaining, from all of that. We should have a new orientation where husbands and wives are viewed equally, because when a man marries, he takes a wife and they start a home. She's not a visitor, she's not a stranger, and nobody treats even visitors and strangers in that manner. We advise husbands, if your wife tends to talk a lot, remove yourself, have a cooling off period, and then come back to the issue. Wives, fellow women, there is no excuse for verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is also abuse. We do not preach rudeness or insult or aggression. Your suffering does not automatically entitle you to abuse others or to be violent. Try and work through your issues together and individually. Resolving conflict starts from you internally, saying to yourself, oh, I want to resolve this. And if two people have made that agreement, it's usually easier. Nobody can settle your agreements completely unless your issues completely, unless you agreed that there is that you now want to settle it. So please let us have the attitude that will help us live more peacefully together. We encourage open, respectful conversation in every relationship. At Lampere, we teach people how to listen and how to communicate effectively. This is how to engender peace. We need to learn these skills so that in our homes, in workplaces, and society in general, we can have more peace and an attitude that conduces towards peace. That's why all the time we say to everyone, carry on the lamp of peace. I want to thank Ms. Bemagan for inviting me to give this lecture. Thank you for your attention.